claim. Federal Reserve Management and all agreed to back all dollars printed before September 2008. That implies that somebody would decide all dollars before 2008 weren't going to be valid, which doesn't make any sense. To back up with gold, wherein the gold are stored in the Philippines at a rate of 1/28th of a gram per dollar. That would mean $28 per gram. Then global corruption has to stop, change is coming, NESRA, Chass Handler, etc. 2017. If you're not aware of what NESRA is, it is a pyramid scheme mixed in with a conspiracy theory wrapped up in an enigma. No, it's just wrapped in bullshit. Tags and links that leads to a 35-minute YouTube video that's an excerpt from a really long video called Changes on the Horizon, NESRA, talking about King of Recognized Assets, or K.O.R.A.N. Without comments enabled isn't a truthful source as far as a source, because it goes to Queen of Queens or whatever, which is a really lofty title to give your channel. Unless you're, flamboyant or something. And a Federal Reserve Management doesn't exist in the USA, so this is either a grammar problem or someone's taking advantage of that. Did you know that the global trade asset, that meme that K.O.R.A.N. Hoods does, global debt facility, is an actual legal term, and it's an outdated, antiquated one, but it's not a physical location holding global debts. A global debt facility is something to facilitate debt transactions that is not limited to one country or one region, for trade internationally by buying and selling people's debts, so that when you pay back your debt, you might owe it to some other company. The companies trade your marker back and forth. It has nothing to do with anything else, and it is a conspiracy theory that's, again, wrapped in an enigma or bullshit. But anyway, a Federal Reserve Management as a term only exists if you look it up and find it in PDF files as Federal Reserve Management Team, or Management Team of the Federal Reserve. Those exist. They're part of the Federal Reserve System in the United States, controlling the central banks, and its main policy, its main purpose is to be the policymaker in charge of fighting recessions and inflations, trying to adjust things to manipulate the financial system in the United States to try to keep it from going completely crazy like it did when we had robber barons and monopolies. We still have robber barons and monopolies, but we try to control it from that end instead of just saying, stop profiteering, which we can't really do because it's a capitalist system. Anyway, throughout 2008, gold cost from $24 to $32 per gram. You can actually look this up. So yes, technically during some time during that year, it would have been 1/28th of a gram would have been $1, as is what you stated. And specifically in September, the price range was $25 to $28 per gram. So just barely at the high end, it was 1/28th of a gram was $1. That is technically accurate in that month. Barely. And that's if I'm squinting. So your claims again are September 2008, 1/28th of a gram per dollar for gold exchange rate internationally exists. It has nothing to do with the Philippines. The Philippines does not control the gold rate. It does not have an enormous amount of gold in order to control it or affect it. And it doesn't make big deals like this, except as being a place where other countries might visit as a neutral territory to discuss these things, mostly over a beer. That's no different than them showing up in Switzerland to do the same thing. They find a place where they can have a private conversation between countries to run some dirty deal. I mean, an agreement that benefits everybody. So that's technically true. But the claim that the Philippines specifically backed a Federal Reserve Management that doesn't exist, by definition is false, because that last part doesn't exist. And number two, there isn't any record of this happening. There might have been an agreement during 2008 for the U.S. government to back the Philippines, dollar for dollar, which actually did happen, but not the other way around. There are a bunch of people calling themselves Ophirians or just simply hyper-nationalist people in the Philippines that desperately need to make themselves very important on the internet. And they found out a small number of them, that if they keep propping up propaganda, whether it's for or against the Philippines, they will get attention. The claim that the Philippines stored gold to back currency vaguely under somebody calling himself king of recognized asset nations or something like that is horseshit. It's also probably a mistranslation of some other term. No one who speaks Filipino will do the digging I do to find out where the king of recognized asset nations comes from. It's obviously some legal term or some flowery term that was used in some document somewhere. But it is not on any of the documents presented by any of the people who use that expression. They simply won't tell you where they got that expression from. And the person that shows up every time you type in K.O.R.A.N with dots between it, or king of recognized asset nations, you get one of three people's heads come up on the screen. One of them is a known huckster who ran numbers and crap like that in Hong Kong and got arrested and jailed for it because he tried to run a $1 billion blank check, a false or rubber check. And the other two are various people in the Philippines claiming to desperate people they can get rid of their debts or get them money without them doing a damn thing other than helping them once in a while, breaking people's legs and getting money out of them. They're little wannabe warlords. And the Philippines government doesn't really do anything about them because, honestly, the only people who are victimized by them are people who are supposed to be getting helped by them. And they always claim it under some methodology that can legally be allowed. The Philippines doesn't really just go out of their way to punish the living shit out of people who steal little old ladies' lunch money. And they should. And a lot of these guys, you'll see them on YouTube if you actually bother to put your time into this. These wannabe false gods. They dead ass threaten you. They act like a dumb bully in a schoolyard, and some of them will actually shoot people because they're fucking criminals. And every one of them claims that they're doing the Philippines a favor, or somebody. A lot of them have branched out to bilking people outside of the Philippines and just hiring people for $10 a day to hang out with them and make them look like they're rich people. One guy even rented a nice fluffy house to stay at for a couple of days while they filmed it. And they've been milking that video for a long time. It has exactly the same weather in the background no matter what year the video is posted, no matter what time of the year. Even during hurricane season or something, or monsoon season, perfect weather. It's perfect here. Yeah, it's because you filmed it 2 years ago. The guy went out of his way to do everything perfectly, putting his hair back, getting it all nice and neat, shaving it a specific way. One guy even shaved a pattern so that he could reproduce it throughout the days. So anyway, the idea that this king of recognized asset nations has anything to do with it, and NESRA actually works, has always been and always will be bullshit. Everybody who claims that they've gotten something out of it got paid by the group to say that so they get more marks in. It is a pyramid scheme. And these three, God, I hope it's only three right now, these people who claim that there's gold, and they always say gold, Philippines, and scream nationalist statements. These people are going to be huckstering until they drop dead. They'll be selling you, robo vacuum cleaners if they can get money out of it. But anyway, the claim originally, Federal Reserve Management, which doesn't exist, and all, that's vague, agreed to back dollars printed before September 2008. Why wouldn't they just back them anyway? They don't need to agree anything. With gold in the Philippines at a specific rate, when the Philippines doesn't have enough gold to actually affect gold prices. They're not a principal exporter or even importer of gold. They have lots of assets. The Philippines has a lot of money, potentially. But the thing that's keeping them down is infighting. And you know what? It benefits every country, including the United States, I'm afraid to say, that they fight each other by arguing over this crap. There are little warlords, 3 so far, on this particular subject, who knows how many others, who get groups around them and promise them ultimate power if they just help them do some vague thing. They're cult leaders. One of them is called the God culture, or God culture. They're the gold culture. They promise everybody golden calves if they worship them, and claim that they're very religious and very, very conservative and very empowering. And people keep starving in the Philippines. If you keep them miserable, you keep yourself empowered. Just make sure they don't hate you for it. I'm not quoting anybody correctly. I'm just giving you some information. The people who lead you by the nose are going to slaughter you later. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And please go look up shit.